Want to customize your Scum server experience? Whether you're looking for a chill solo run or total chaos amidst the Hordes, these encounters and Horde settings are where the magic happens. Before we kick off the server settings, I need to just address what HTZ, MTZ and LTZ mean. In Scum, the terms HTZ, MTZ and LTZ refer to threat zones, which categorise areas of the game world by their level of danger or AI activity. These zones influence how frequently encounters, events and spawns occur. HTZ, High Threat Zone. Most dangerous areas, higher frequency of AI encounters including puppets and world events, typically includes military bases, bunkers, heavily guarded POIs. MTZ, Medium Threat Zones. Moderate AI activity and encounter rates, includes towns, industrial areas and moderate loot zones. LTZ, Low Threat Zone. Safer regions with minimal AI encounters. This includes forests, open rural areas and roadside locations. Why does this matter for server settings? These zones are used by the game's spawn and event systems to essentially determine where and how often events like Hordes and Dropships occur, the difficulty of surviving in specific regions, and server admins can customize encounter multipliers by zone to shape the server's game flow. Let's start with the max allowed characters. This controls the total number of living entities on your server. That includes players, mechs, animals and puppets. Now, here's a tip. High threat zone enemies aren't counted here. Only medium and low threat zones are counted here. Also, if you set the setting below 0, it defaults to 128. Next up, encounter base character amount multiplier. This one determines how many enemies spawn when you trigger an encounter, like entering a point of interest or POI. Now, the formula for this is high threat zones have between 4 and 5 puppets as a base amount. Medium threat zones have 2 to 3 and low threat zones have 1 to 2. The multiplier just multiplies those base values. Set this value to 2 and if you enter a medium threat zone, you'll get 4 to 6 puppets. Next, let's look at the encounter extra character per player multiplier. This adds more enemies based on how many players are in the area. So, if we take this formula of a base value of 3 to 4 puppets plus however many players there are, times 1 times the multiplier. So, 4 players in a high threat zone with a multiplier of 2, that's 9 to 10 puppets. Bear in mind, the high threat zone is between 4 and 5 as a base amount. Next, let's look at the encounter extra characters player cap multiplier. This puts a hard cap on how many players can affect the spawn count. If you set it to 5 and there are 6 players in the area, the 6th player doesn't change anything. Next, the encounter character respawn time multiplier. This controls how long it takes for enemies to respawn. In high threat zones, it's between 0 and 0.5 seconds. In both medium and low threat zones, it's between 60 and 120 seconds. If you want to keep a POI cleared out until everyone leaves, set this all to 0. Respawn batch size. This setting affects how many enemies respawn at once. In high threat zones, it's set to 0. In medium threat zones and low threat zones, it's set between 1 and 2. A bigger multiplier here equals bigger waves. Encounter character aggressive spawn chance override. This lets you force immediate aggressive puppet spawns. Just set the percentage from 0 to 100. AI noise response radius multiplier. This changes how far away other puppets can hear a scream or alert. The base values for this in high threat zones is 20 meters, in medium threat zones is 20 meters, in low threat zones is 30 meters. The higher the multiplier, the more you risk drawing a crowd. Now let's talk about the Horde encounters, those wild escalating battles when things get out of control. Now, before we actually get into the Horde settings, I want to just go over the difference between the Horde and Horde group. The difference between these two is the Horde group is the number of puppets that spawn at once. The Horde is the total number that can spawn during the encounter. So, if the Horde is set to 30 and the Horde group is set to 8, you'll only fight 8 puppets at the time. As they die, new ones will spawn until 30 have spawned in total, then the Horde ends. Encounter Horde group base character amount multiplier. This controls how many puppets spawn in a group. It's a multiplier. Set it to 2 and your Horde group doubles in size. Encounter Horde group extra character per player multiplier. If you want more chaos with more players, this adds extra puppets per additional player. Set it to 2.0 and every extra player adds 2 puppets to the group. Encounter Horde group extra character player cap multiplier. This one puts a limit on how many players are counted. By default, it caps at 6 players. Beyond that, puppet spawns will not increase. Encounter Horde base character amount multiplier. Now let's talk about the total Horde size. This setting multiplies that number. If your Horde is 20 and you set this to 2.0, you will now get a total of 40 puppets. Encounter Horde extra character per player multiplier. Just like the group version, this adds more puppets per player, but for the entire Horde. Encounter Horde extra character player cap multiplier. Again, this sets the maximum on how many players influence the Horde size. Usually, this is capped at 6. Encounter Horde activation chance multiplier. Some Horde triggers are based on noise, like gunshots or explosions. This multiplier changes the chance of those noises triggering a Horde. Gunfire at 60% chance times 2.0 becomes 120, but it is capped at 100%. Encounter Horde noise check cooldown multiplier. Every time a loud noise happens but doesn't trigger a Horde, there is a short cooldown. This setting adjusts the delay, usually around 3 seconds. Encounter Horde spawn distance multiplier. This setting controls how far puppets spawn from players. By default, it's around 30 to 40 meters. However, be careful. This setting, if it's set too high, can cause puppets to never reach players. Here's a quick tip, don't go over 2.0. Encounter Horde group refill time multiplier. This changes how fast a group refills after puppets are killed. Default is fast, just a few seconds. 2.0 makes it slower. 10.0 is about 30 seconds. Encounter Horde should play activation sound. This setting is a simple on or off setting, and it dictates whether the Horde activation sound should be played, which is that iconic scream. If you don't want it, turn it off. If you want to keep it, leave it on. Now for some experimental features. Encounter can remove low priority characters. This tries to remove unused puppets if the spawn pool is already full. If puppets are disappearing strangely, try turning this off. Can clamp character num when out of resources. If your server is running out of AI slots, this clamps down Horde sizes to the minimum needed. It's on by default and it helps avoid overload. Next, we have the Encounter Global Zone Cooldown Multiplier. This controls the cooldown time between random encounter events within a specific zone, such as the high threat zone, medium threat zone, and low threat zone. What does it actually do? The setting multiplies the base cooldown time that must pass after each encounter ends in a zone before another can begin in the same area. Next, we have the Puppet World Encounter Spawn Weight Multiplier. This setting changes how often Puppet World encounters spawn. The default is 1.0, meaning no change. Increase or decrease this setting to make puppets more or less likely to appear. Animal World Encounter Spawn Weight Multiplier. The same idea goes for animals. This multiplier affects how likely animal encounters are in the wild. Dropship World Encounter Spawn Weight Multiplier. Let's look at the dropship encounters. This setting controls the likelihood of a dropship event happening using a multiplier. By default, the base weights are puppets at 80, animals at 19, and dropships at 1. So if we set the multiplier to 1, the chance for a dropship event looks like this. 1 divided by 80 plus 19 plus 1 equals 1 divided by 100 equals 1%. That's a 1% chance. But if we set this multiplier to 100, the calculation becomes 100 divided by, in brackets, 80 plus 19 plus 100, closing brackets, equals 100 divided by 199, which equals 50%. Now, there's a nearly 50% chance for a dropship to be selected. But where does this apply? This setting applies to low threat zones or LTZs. When an event is triggered, there's a 20% base chance the game will randomly pick one of the 3 encounters: puppets, animals, or the dropship. Modifying the multiplier heightens that chance. Enable Dropship Abandoned Bunker Encounter. This is a simple on or off. If you want dropships to appear outside of abandoned bunkers, select this to be on. If you don't want that, select it off. Now let's look at the Dropship Abandoned Bunker Encounter trigger chance. This displays this setting determines the chance that a dropship event gets triggered when you activate an abandoned bunker. It's a percentage based value from 0.1 to 100%. 100 always triggers the dropship. 50, there's a 50% chance that a dropship will be triggered, which is the default, and 0.0 is completely disables the bunker dropship events. So if you want dropship showing when that alarm goes off, crank it up to 100. If you want to keep bunkers a bit quieter, set it low or even 0. Next, we have the base building encounter trigger chance. This setting determines the probability of triggering an encounter when you're active in your base. This value is expressed as a percentage. For instance, 7.5 is 7.5% chance, which is the default. 100 is a 100% chance and 0.1 is a 0.1 chance. Adjusting this value changes how frequently encounters occur during base activities. The base building encounter trigger time multiplier. This multiplier affects the interval in seconds between each check to see if an encounter should be triggered while you're building your base. How does this work? The game has a base time interval for checking encounter triggers. This setting multiplies that interval. The formula for this is final interval equals base time times the multiplier. Some example values: if we set it to 1.0, it uses a default check-in interval. 2.0 doubles the time between checks, less frequent encounters. 0.5 halves the time between checks, more frequent checks. This doesn't guarantee an encounter, however, it just affects how often the game checks for a chance to trigger one. Enable dropship base building encounters. This enables the dropships to actually appear at your base. If you want this to be toggled on, select on. If you don't want a dropship appearing at your base, select off. If you want your scum-fit server to feel more dangerous in the wild but more peaceful around your base, what you will want to do is you'll want to set the spawn encounters and threat zones ignoring base building to on. What this means is essentially dropships will never come near your base. They will ignore your base. They will only spawn in threat zones, which means the game world becomes more dangerous, but you being at home, you'll be totally fine. Enable Encounter Manager Low Player Count Mode. In Scum, the Encounter Manager Low Player Count Mode is a server setting that helps maintain game balance and intensity when there are only a few players online. It's designed to adjust or enable encounters even if the player count is typically lower than normal thresholds. I should note that this setting, Enable Encounter Manager Low Player Count Mode, is specifically for multiplayer servers, not single player. The setting Base Building Encounter Min Num of Elements to Trigger determines the minimum number of base building elements like walls, doors, foundations, etc. required before an encounter can be triggered by the base building activity. I should note, if you have enabled the dropship base building encounter, this will take effect. If you have it off, nothing will happen. Base building encounter min num of elements to end defines the minimum number of remaining base elements required to keep an ongoing base building encounter active. Base building encounter damage percentage increase per squad member controls how much additional damage dropships deal during base building encounters based on the number of squad members present. Base building encounter time to full min num to end in days controls the grace period during which base building elements are counted at full value for triggering or maintaining encounters. Base building encounter max min num to end reduction determines how much the minimum number of base elements required to continue an encounter can be reduced based on element age decay over time. Max allowed drones. This setting simply controls the maximum number of drones that can exist on the server at the same time. This includes the admin drones, the spectator drones, and possibly AI controlled or developer event drones in the future. Disable sentry spawning. If you want sentries on your server, leave this on off. If you want them to be disabled, turn this on. Enable POI sentry respawning. These are sentries that are guarding bunkers. If you were to, example, kill one, they will respawn via a dropship. If you want to leave this on, you will encounter a dropship dropping a sentry back into the bunker area. If you don't want that, leave this off. Disable suicide puppet spawning. This disables the spawning of suicide puppets, aka the beepers. If you want to keep them on, leave this off. If you want to disable them, turn it on. Puppets can open doors. This is a yes or no question, but it's defined as on or off. Puppets can open doors. On means that they can open the doors, off means they cannot open the doors. Set this as you will. Puppets can vault windows. Yet again, a yes or no setting defined as on or off. If you want them to vault through windows, leave this on. If you don't, leave it off. Set this as you will. The following settings are health multipliers, specifically for the puppet, dropship and sentry. 1.0 is the default health points of each individual puppet, dropship and sentry. However, if you want to make puppets even tougher, increase this number. If you want to make the dropship even tougher, increase the number. If you want the sentry to be unkillable, make it 999. However, if you drop this by 0.5% or 0.5, you will halve the health points of each individual thing here. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that is the entire NPC server settings covered. I hope this helped. If you want to leave me some questions in the comment section, feel free to do so. I'll try and help as best as I can. Some questions may be out of my realm of expertise. If you've enjoyed this, leave a thumbs up. Tell me what you think in the comments below. Did it help? Did it not help? I've tried to make this as user-friendly as possible. I've gone back and forward with scripting this. I've recorded this 4 times. I've re-recorded it about 5 times. I've done the audio for this video several times. The video for this I've simply just done it once, but the audio for this has been a major challenge because trying to get the information to flow and all the information to be relevant and user-friendly has been quite the challenge. Anyway folks, I hope this helped. Let me know if it did. If it didn't, let me know as well. I'll see if I can try and help you out. If you want to stick around for more guides and more tutorials on Scum, specifically for the server settings, consider subscribing, ring the little bell. You stay up to date videos just like this. We do a Sunday night live stream, it starts between 6 and 7 PM UK. I upload through the week. You'll be updated with all this stuff. Anyway folks, I hope this helped yet again. Thank you very much for watching today. As always, I've been Mr. Feudal. I'll see you all another time.